Okay, recording has started.
All right, thank you. Hello, Mr. Litjens, how are you?
Good afternoon. I'm fine, thank you.
Oh, that's good to hear. So, could you please tell me what's your role in the team? What's your job position?
My role in the team is the project leader, project manager, as they call it, as well as chief designer.
Okay, and what is it that you do as a team leader and team designer?
Okay, in the end, for sure, we start on a chief designer role with the design of the car. In the end, for sure, we get a technical regulation which we have to obey to. And from there, we gonna look and study what we think is the best car to make.
Okay.
That's the technical side, yeah, and very simply said. But for sure, also the non-technical side, as I can call it, is everything related to budget. I mean, for sure, we get budget from our Kazoo Racing mother company. We have to see what budgets we can assure or what all we have to do. Also to plan in the end all the activities with the cars, because for sure we design a car, but after the car is designed, we want to go and test it. So we have to see where we can go testing. So we make a schedule as well to see, also taking into account when certain parts can be available. And then for sure adapt the race calendar, which the WEC every year announced, into our activity calendar.
Okay, and how long have you been in that position?
In this position, I'm basically since we started the LMP1 project, so 2011.
Okay.
Before in Formula One, I have been basically chief engineer, chief designer since 2006. The big difference between the F1 time and now for me is that at that time it was pure technical. I had nothing to do with budgets and all the other things around arrangements.
Okay, and how much importance do budgets have while designing a WEC car?
I mean, for sure, you have to keep it in mind, and especially I think the LMH regulations. This was also a target from the FAA and ACO to try to be more cost focused. LMP1 was prototype development, and there for sure the key thing was to develop and show new technologies. For sure, the LMH cars it's still wanted and done, but yeah, they tried already to help to work on cost reductions by defining certain minimum weights for some components. For example, the chassis, the engine, the gearbox, they all have minimum weight, so you not forced to use extraordinary either designs from shape point of view or from materials point of view.
Okay, could you please explain what the LMH regulations? Could you please explain the LMH regulations regarding the chassis? What makes them so different from previous competition cars?
If you look, for I said, your question was asked between LMP1 and F1. I mean, for sure, there the biggest difference, I would very simply say, the LMP1 has a roof and is basically wider because by the regulation you have to occupy the space for a passenger, and the regulation, the legality boxes as we call it, where the minimum volume the chassis has to contain, also does allow a passenger, which F1 for sure is not. Between LMH and LMP1, the difference is not that big. The only, I would say, big change they made is that in LMP1 we were basically free to position our hybrid battery, and now it's really mandatory by regulation that has to be behind the driver. So all the HV parts have their own so-called HV compartment. So the battery has one, the front motor has one, and there's basically a kind of connection tunnel between them where the HV cable is running. So it's more basically isolated from the driver.
Okay, and did this change affect heavily the chassis design compared to what you used to have before?
I mean, for sure, we had to take it into account because also these HV chambers, they have some test requirements of resistant force and pressure. And as said, in the LP1, this was not the case. So we had to do some more finite element work on the chassis. But I would say the base, how you approach it, is quite similar between LMP1 and LMH. Only, yeah, we have now some more limitations from positioning stuff.
Okay. And in chassis design, what components does this involve? You know, I saw some previous interviews of yours where you spoke a lot about bodywork or radiator placement.
Yeah. I mean, the chassis design you can basically split in three main groups. One is composite. So for sure there, yes, we design the chassis, but also all the bodywork around. Basically everything which is from carbon made is in the composite group. The second group is, we call that steering, suspension and brakes. So basically all the suspension components which are linked to it, the steering, the brakes, all these parts are in that group. And then for sure you have the transmission group where the gearbox, the drive shafts, and all those things are linked. That's purely chassis,
Okay.
but in our design department also is linked to chassis now the electronics hardware, because for sure if the integration, the group which is under the mechanical components does do the installation from all the coolers and all the stuff. We also have to package many electronic boxes, all the looms, so this all goes together. So you have quite a wide field in the end. What we call chassis between brackets is everything apart from the powertrain.
Okay. And how many people work in order to complete all these different projects that make up the chassis?
Okay, in the chassis design office, it varies a bit, but I think we have around 30-35 people. But they're not continuously only working on LMH, of course. For sure, when you do a new car, they are all full on it. But we as DJE, we also work on different projects which we have to support. But yeah, I think in the busy time, you have around 30-35 people working on the car.
Okay, and what process do you follow in order to design the chassis?
Okay, in the end, we for sure follow the regulations. That's key point one, yeah, because in the end we have to fulfill the regulations, but also there, especially now on LMH, as you might know, that also there are some design limitations. For the powertrain, you have to follow a maximum power curve, so you cannot go over that. But especially for the car design, it's also the aerodynamic values from downforce and drag. There's a certain window your car have to be in, and this is for sure to take into account in the development. And for sure, normally when you start with a new regulation with a blank sheet of paper, you do certain packaging exercise, and then you go work together with Aero, because for sure they also want to have the most efficient Aero shapes over it normally. As the Aero limitations are, let's say, not super challenging, also from the cost point of view. It's to find then the good Aero values and give a bit more options for certain packaging from certain components. Because let's say in the past, especially for sure speaking F1, but even in the LMP1, Aero was a very important performance key parameter. And basically the chassis people had to work around this. For the LMH, it can go a bit more hand in hand as the requirements are not that extreme.
Okay. Okay, and is there a lot of back and forth between the different groups, between Aero and the engines, or is it does it follow more of a linear process?
No, for sure we have regular review meetings. We have at least one review meeting with all the group, and then I have some review meetings with single groups. And for sure, if I see certain areas developing where I think there could be maybe some clashes on what both groups want to do, for sure this is discussed in the meeting. So yes, it for sure goes a bit backwards and forward, because in the beginning everybody wants for sure to do the best in his area. But yeah, the car is in the end always a bit of a compromise in some areas to get the total performance and most efficient car designed.
Okay. And through all of this process, how limited have you been by the non-advancement clause that's in the WEC until 2025, where you can't introduce new extreme upgrades or a new chassis, for example?
Difficult to say. In the end, not too much, because yes, you're right. You develop a car, and in the end, it's homologated for the minimum 5 years. Okay, now it's already extended a bit. Nevertheless, there are still some jokers you can do. Some are called performance joker. This for sure you can only introduce after discussion with the FAACO and showing for sure some lack of the car. So this still helps you, but we should also not forget that still the reliability jokers or safety jokers, if you find somewhere really reliability issue in the car, you're still free to update your car based on this, as long as it doesn't affect the performance. So yes, it's a bit more limited than LP1, I agree, because there you could keep developing basically as much as you liked. Here it's a little bit less, but still, if you plan it, you still can do some work.
Okay, that's very interesting. If you personally could tell me a little bit more about the success that the GR010 or 010 hybrid has been able to achieve in the last few years, a couple of wins, the win at Le Mans, a lot of podiums. How does it feel for you that your designs have been able to accomplish so much?
I mean, for sure, it's great to see. I still think it's for sure a good team effort to keep going. But I think also what us really helped is basically that we kept going directly after LMP1, because some of the processes we work that is still the same. You still have your basically things to sign off before it goes on the car. For example, mechanical components. We go on a test bench. We do certain mileage there under certain load cases to make sure when it hits the track, it's quite reliable already. And I think that's what you see very well between last year and this year. I mean, although last year as well, already more manufacturers were there, it was the first year for them. And even with a given car, you still need quite some mileage and experience to get the best out of it. Secondly, the team operation with the pit stop, but also how other things are organized in the race team itself. This takes time to establish a good and stable team. And in the end, that was last year really the reason why we still had quite a lot of wins in that case, although the others were there. But if you see then now how teams like Ferrari and Porsche have developed over the year of experience this season, they are on the same level. So it's not only, especially in this class, with the limitations as you already mentioned, it's not only about designing the best car, it has to be the best team.
Okay, and when you're designing, do you compare yourselves a lot to the other manufacturers like Ferrari or Porsche, as you just said, or are there a lot of internal goals like maybe not race wins, but the distance over a race or fastest lap times, anything of the sort?
I mean, for sure, you set yourself some certain targets that the car want to achieve. But you would also be stupid if you don't look what competitors are doing. But also here now, in LMP1, if you saw a competitor which had really a great idea, you could try to work on this and go from there and either even try to even improve it and then implement it in the car. But now with the 5-year homologation, that is for sure less of an opportunity to do. But yeah, it starts with own set targets for sure.
Okay, and do you hope to make a large jump once that 5-year homologation has passed for Toyota? now that you're going to be able to have an advantage over the other teams?
How you mean big jump?
Yeah. A big push forward, a large advantage compared to the other teams. Now that you're gonna have you're gonna be able to implement a new car 1 year before all the other competition.
Yeah, for sure we learned as well from our first year. But I mean, yes, we brought let's say the new car 1 year ago, which is a bit earlier than the others. So we gained from the 2 years before. But also the others, they learn out, and they also still have the opportunity to bring a new car within this 5 years. So we have to see how it goes.
Okay, and do specific races have bigger influence in the design process? For example, does Le Mans have a bigger influence in the design process compared to Imola or Spa-Francorchamps?
Yes, but not only Le Mans. I mean, Le Mans is in the end a target for every manufacturer to try to win, and the other target is to get the championship in miles. For the design of the car, we look often to what, let's say, possible venues are known. You mentioned already, for sure, we go to Le Mans. So far, we always went to Le Mans. But for example, as well, when we started the design of the car, we also knew we would go to Sebring. And Sebring is a specific circuit with all the bumps, and also the load cases are different there. So from simulation, from the tracks which we know which are likely to come and which we know have certain very specific requirements, like Spa or Rouge, you get quite a load on the suspension there, the Sebring has. So from each track, we try to pick the section where that's most demanding for the car. And based on that, we base basically our internal calculations for all the force calculations, etc. Also the simulations which we do, the test bench work we do, it's all based on a kind of combined lab from all the worst conditions.
Okay, and how much simulations and how much data testing do you do before designing a new chassis?
Yeah, for the chassis itself, it's mainly linked on the impact test, so the crash test. For sure, here we can do quite some simulation, and for sure we check the stiffness of the chassis itself. Because also there, from simulations, we determine a minimum stiffness of the chassis, and then when designing the chassis itself, we for sure verify that we at least achieve that target.
Okay, and is there anything that you feel that the car needs to improve for the next design, or do you try to follow like a planned path of development?
No, you always learn when running, yeah, and you always see things. Okay, that could be done maybe better, partly for performance, but also very important in this series for sure the serviceability. When the mechanics have to do certain setup actions, how easy access do they have? All these kind of things. It looks small, and they might not direct affect the, let's say, real performance of the car, of the max performance of the car. But it can affect in the end the race outcome in case you have to do repairs. So I think there's always ideas from mechanics coming up, some for sure with valid reasons. Yeah, there's always continuous improvement possible, and that's always what we want to do, which we keep in mind for either a new car or if we have to update something by reliability, that we straight away can incorporate that.
Okay, and now for the drivers, do they have a lot of input in the design process, or does the factory determine a lot of the stuff that goes into it?
No, the drivers have maybe some input, let's say, in the development of the car, in the initial design of the car. There's little input because we really base it on the regulations and what we need, what we know the car would need from simulation point of view. For sure, when we go the first test and there's some feedback about it from the drivers about certain set of directions which maybe we don't have available, we cannot do with our car from the beginning, then for sure we try to look into this and adapt some designs to make that possible.
Okay. Okay. Could you and do the regulations with how close they have become? How does this present a challenge for you?
I mean, any regulation is normally a challenge, but now I think in the end, yes, we have some limitations set about the weight. In the end, about certain performance factors, but they are mainly done to avoid high costs, and therefore, for sure, it's not really directly a challenge to fulfill these.
Okay, and does this reduction in cost help Toyota?
I think it helps any manufacturer. I mean, for sure, each manufacturer has a certain budget and probably will spend what they have. But on the other hand, we should also not forget that in the end, yes, it becomes more critical economically. You always have periods where you struggle to get the budgets you need, and therefore, as base point, this lower cost already from regulations is for sure a good point. I mean, in the LB1, you could do a specific bodywork for Le Mans, and then you had another bodywork for the WC. Now, as you have one aero window to fulfill, only one aero package is enough. So this saves you in development costs and parts productions and lead time and transport. So all in all, it helps a lot.
Okay, and what do you see for the future of Gazoo racing of Toyota in WEC? What are your goals or what are your expectations?
Our goals and expectations, I think, should be clear. We want to keep winning. So for sure.
Okay, and do you feel proud that you've been able to become the most successful manufacturer in the last decade?
Sorry,
Hello?
I think my connection was good, no?
Oh,
I thought you would be
I
so
lost you for a
proud that
second.
you're speechless.
Yeah, because I started and then I get the on hold ringtone and I like, oh, it's not good. No, for sure our goals are to keep winning and developing.
Mr. Litjens?
I think it's a technical problem. So I
Yeah,
hear you dropped out again.
it's one of these days. But sometimes the internet connection is just gone. So I hope it stays now again.
It happens. Yeah, could you
Yeah.
please restart your answer?
Yeah, as said, for sure we want to keep winning Le Mans and the World Championships, also to grow even more as a team, and then hopefully in the near future also have some cars with some new technologies on board.
Okay. And finally, one last question. What would you recommend to all the other engineers or engineering students that want to form part of your team and want to be part of such an important project?
Oh, what I would advise them is to take up the challenge if they would for sure have the opportunity to come to us and be part of a team which and in general also this kind of motorsports where you can see quite some development going still for future road cars, partly as well the basically the passion to see things developed, designed, produced and run in a short time.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Litjens. It was an honor being able to interview you. Thank you for being here and taking some time of your, I know, extremely busy day to be here.
Yeah, no problem. You're welcome. And thank you for the interview.
No, thank you. Honestly, I was very worried that I wasn't gonna be able to get a response from any team, and I'm very honored that it was from yours.
Okay.
Happy to support from our side as well. And yeah, thank you, John, for taking the time.
Yeah, no problem.
And thank you, Sebastian. In case you need anything else, just don't hesitate to contact us.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Litjens, before you leave, a little bit of a personal question that's not going to be included in the video or in the article. I have a friend and I were going to apply for your thesis program. Any advice you would give us?